Yes. Welcome to the bi-weekly lecture from the Rastafari Council, Ghana. Today's topic is the development of Rastafari in Ghana, the way forward. Our speaker is Ras Ahuma, Bosco Ocansey. Let's cut straight and join the discussion.
Right move,
Radio culture, GH reggae dance, radio culture.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Briefly.
Okay, cool. Basically, we're looking forward to your presentation. I don't know where I cut off, but basically, we know your topic is going to be development of Rastafari in Ghana, the way forward, and I think this is crucial to this is central to what we've been dealing with all along. You know, each time we meet, basically, we're looking at what it means to us. Rastafari works in Ghana, which by default is in Africa or the African world. Daddy B has done some, serious intellectual work in this area. He's written about it, and we know he practices it too. Like, he's done the work. He's doing the work. So, Manche, we would hand it over to you, and please bring us along and let us know what we need to think about as far as the way forward. Thank you.
So, greetings. The Congo. In Jamaica. And also rode to 36 St. Agnes Place, which was then the base of Rastafari in London. To talk about the development of Rastafari in Ghana, it's important to harp back to the origins of the movement. And it can be described as a Judeo-Christian based movement that emerged in Jamaica in the 30s, in the 1930s. And it was influenced largely by the Back to Africa movement. Rastafari has strong Indian influences due to the East Indian presence in the Caribbeans. And this East Indian presence or influence is epitomized in the name of the Gonguru Maharaj, Leonard Percival Howell, one of the founding figures of the movement. Gonguru Maharaj is actually translated teacher, king of wisdom in Hindi. And other names from the early 1930s include Archibald Dunkley, Joseph Hibbert, and Robert Hines. The history and development of Rastafari has been well chronicled and elsewhere in both academia and pop culture circles. So I'd like to focus on the development of the movement in Africa in general and Ghana in particular. Before I go Further, though, I'd like to have said that Rastafari has become a global cultural phenomenon, which is impacting resistance and cultural movements globally, from Jamaica to Japan, through Africa to the Americas, Europe, China, and Russia. You can see indigenous citizens of those nations professing Rastafari, or some of its variants or derivatives. There's an issue that is central to Rastafari, which is the divinity, or the concept of royal divinity. The concept is actually native to Africa, as in other cultures. In Kemet, which is the name our ancestors called our home before the Greeks named it Egypt, the pharaoh was said to be divine. In Asantehene, the Asantehene is referred to as Otikokosu Utufo Nyamikesie. So, having given this broad background, let me zoom in into the presence of Rastafari in Africa as we look at the development of the movement in Ghana. In my view, the presence of Rastafari in Africa dates back to the first official delegation sent by the Jamaican government in 1961. And the delegation included both Rastafari and non-Rastafari brethren, and their mission was to explore the possibilities of repatriation and strengthening ties with the African continent. They visited Ethiopia, Ghana, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone, among other places. And the Rastafari members of the delegation had an opportunity to privately engage His Majesty as part of that trip. And I believe Seven Fireside has done a presentation on the visits in one of our series. Since then, there have been various private delegations to Africa from Jamaica and other Caribbean countries. There's also been a presence of Rastafari in Ethiopia, where because of the Shekhamani land grant by His Majesty, various Rastafari organizations have undertaken repatriation programs like the 12 tribes of Israel, who at one time were organizing events in Jamaica, and the funds or proceeds from those events were given to the members to repatriate back to Shishimani in Ethiopia. Other African countries have also had the presence of Rastafari since the 70s, and these include Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. Of course, Rastafari has spread like wildfire across the continent since the 70s, and this has been fueled by reggae music spearheaded by Bob Marley. Indeed, West Africa has also cultivated our fair share of Rastafari, with countries like Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone developing vibrant Rastafari communities. Although the presence of Farai can still be felt from Burkina Faso through Mali, Niger, Senegal, and beyond. The last time I was in Cote d'Ivoire, the interesting thing that caught my attention there was their chants. And apart from the traditional chants in English and the French translations, they've come up with some great chants in both French and indigenous languages. And these are original compositions. Here in Ghana, the Befi Krom House of Nyabing is blazing a similar trail with original chants they've crafted in Fanti. I know the EWF brethren at Amamole are also putting forward some chants in Akan. Now, so let's look at Ghana, having looked at the global picture, the continental picture, and what is in Ghana. I've actually written about this party in my book, Conversations on the Creative Arts in Ghana, which is available as an ebook on Amazon. Now, from what I know, based on conversations with some of the elders we met, Rastafari has been present in Ghana since the 60s when the Ahumah Papa brothers, these were seamen who had returned from their trips abroad. They were originally from Takoradi, but they were living in Accra at the time. And according to folks like Little Joe, they were some of the earliest racists they saw. Then a seaman who had returned home from his trips abroad, he was called Carlos Alberto, but later we came to refer to him as Carlos Zebi. He settled in Lawe, who's the brethren from the diaspora, brethren like Japeti, Roski, and Co. And Priest Zebi, as Carlos Zebi was later known, settled on Bobo Hill with Priest Emmanuel as his right-hand man in Jamaica until Priest Emmanuel passed on, and then Priest Zebi relocated to the Bahamas, where he passed on about 10 years or so ago. And as a youth, I clearly remember seeing a jeep load of Rasis growing up in Labadi in the mid-70s. Because Labadi at that time was like a hub for Rastafari. And some of the brothers from that era were Harry Tope, Ras Wanta, and Co. And Tope in particular, the base opposite the Sangara Spot, a club where live music was played. So Tope's joint was like a hub for Rastafari. And around that same time, in the late 70s, the Classic Candles band, which was mainly a dreadlocks act, and they were described as the first Rasta band, came on the scene. The band included Nano Osibio Prempe, who was the bassist for the group. Osibio had been in Senegal, where he encountered the Baifa brethren. So upon his return to Ghana, he teamed up with Classic Handles, and they subsequently formed Classic Vibes, which is largely described as the first Rasta band or dreadlocks band, depending on how you want to look at it. Now, they had an MC, an intelligent young man called Jesse Mozart, aka the Machine Rapper. And Mozart was like the Rastafari spokesman who chanted Rastafari in the dance. And he would also be at Arito Pay's joint, reasoning with the brethren, who at the time included Big Dread, Zepi, Raswanta, and some others. And indeed, it was a blessing to be among those reasonings in those early days. So, fast forward to 1983, where upon our return from Lagos, Raswanta established the Rainbow Valley in the house his mother had given him in La. And the valley became a watering hole, a place of solace for Rastafari in Ghana, with brothers and sisters visiting from all over Africa, from all over Accra and other parts of Ghana, West Africa, and the diaspora. It was also in the Rainbow Valley that the Ethiopian World Federation was formed as a farmers cooperative, and subsequently the Sons of Zion Mogi Squad, or SOZ Farmers Cooperative, that gave birth to the SOZ band. And also, in 1987, there had been a delegation sent by Priest Emmanuel from the Ethiopian African International Black Congress, aka Bobo Shanti, and they visited the Rainbow Valley to subsequently they set up residence at First Junction, Teshinungwa Estates, before finally setting up camp in Tafo. And that delegation included Priest Jakai, Priest Henry, and others. And this was after a visit by a 12-tribe delegation led by Prophet Gad. They came to Ghana in 1986, November, And the 11-member delegation included brothers and sisters like Carl Philpotts, who is the head of the Shashamani Development Foundation that has adopted the Jamaican Rastafari Development Corporation's school in Shashamani. And they're doing some brilliant work there. Other members of the delegation have also repatriated to Shashamani. So La was crucial to the development of Rastafari in Ghana, not only because of the Rainbow Valley, but the Labadi Beach as well. Because being a tourist destination, many Rastafari visited town and were on the beach, got to hear of their colleagues or their family at the valley. And I believe it also resulted in a certain acceptance of Rastafari in the town of La. Another reason that I believe fueled the presence of Rastafari in Ghana is the adoption of the Black Star biosite for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah, I believe, is arguably the greatest student of the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. He echoed Garvey's teachings by establishing the Blacksman state first south of the Sahara. And therefore, Ghana became the hub of Pan-African affairs and a major attraction for Rastafari outside of Shashamani, Ethiopia. I think at this point, I'd like to acknowledge some brothers and sisters who've paid their dues in terms of the development of Rastafari in Ghana. First of the block, I'd like to mention Momenta, Will Michael, aka Big Dread, who arrived in Ghana in 1977 or thereabouts, and never returned to the West ever since. He was even incarcerated in one prison for herbs, and the elder passed on a few years ago. Others I'd like to mention Ras Wanta, who, like I said, giving up his house to set up Rainbow Valley was very, very significant in the development of Rastafari. That's where I met Professor Ponwadi, aka Wiro Gad, for the first time. And then I'd also like to applaud Jojo Boating, aka Little Joe. Then there was Kojo Levi, who stayed with Big Dread for years. And then Ancient Abednego was the first Rastaman to officially work in the public service as a pharmacy technician with the Ghana Health Service. Others from that era were Zotachi, was also incarcerated for herbs, as well as Raskofi. Raskofi was a Ghanaian youth who had returned home from the UK, grew his locks, was ostracized by his family, and later also incarcerated for herbs at the Nsawam prisons. Then we had the likes of Kofi Loko, aka Sledge Ama Bongo, Asha, later renamed Bongo Guard, Bodo, Capero, President Keks, and then the Ifia sisters, Ifia Sewa and Co, Becky Gad, my Empress Najama, and some other brothers and sisters who've passed on into blessed memory. I also like to applaud the likes of Seven Fireside, who was with Kente from back in the day, and then Professor Pong Wadieke Wirogad, a brother who during his school days at the University of Ghana, through the power of radio, were able to push the Rastafari agenda. And Wiro actually was leading a steady club for the 12 tribes of Israel while we were in Labadi, taking Brethren history through the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey and sharing knowledge. And then Ras Kofi Bakum, who alongside with Seven Fireside formed Sheren She, and they've kept the flag of Rastafari flying high. I also like to pay respects to youths like Royal Kofi Asante, Dr. Tomawuli Hussein, and Ras Ejo, and fresh hands like Michael Kluger, who all deserve commendation. Indeed, the work of Rastafari is a volunteer work, doesn't attract any salary. The rewards may not be immediate, However, let's be motivated by the fact that we are contributing to the development of a movement and tradition that echoes the ancient ways of our ancestors and men and women who gave birth to civilization.
Radio culture.
Development of mankind. Let me touch on the development of some of the mansions in Ghana, and then some of the challenges we've encountered along the way, the work of the Rastafari Council Ghana, the Continental Council. Then I'll go to what I believe or what I'd like to propose in terms of the way forward. So, in 1984, I registered the first Rastafari organization in Ghana, which was the Ethiopian World Federation Farmers Cooperative. Since then, various mansions have been established. That first registration certificate for the EWF Farmers Cooperative had names like William Mikel, aka Big Dread as chairman, or Big Kari Kari, aka Shenta Bednigo, One Takwashia for Jojo Boati, aka Little Joe, Conrad Kojo JC, aka Levi, and myself as secretary. Through a scout master, the late Fifi Beku, who Big Dread had met, we got land at Kote Otrikonfo for a farm project. Now, in 1984, at the height of food shortage and economic challenges, government had established a Food for Work program where returnees like ourselves had to organize into Mobi squads under the National Mobilization Program run by the National Mobilization Committee, which was at the time headed by Commodore Steve Obimpe. So once we started the project in Otrikonfo, the chief of Amamole at the time, who was also a scout, gave us some 21 acres of land. So we had two camps, one at Otrikonfo and another one at Amamole. Unfortunately, both camps are not in the best of health now. So, like I said, the government was running this program, so the regional administrations were tasked to coordinate these activities in liaison with the National Mobilization Committee. And once a group of youth were duly registered as a cooperative and had a project, a team would come and inspect your place, check your documents, etc. And if you qualify, they will sign your project on. So from 1984 to about the early 90s, the program supported activities of Rastafari with food aid. And then at a certain point, when the program of action to mitigate the social cost of adjustment, or PAMSCAD, as it was popularly called at the time, an IMF program was instituted. And they started adding logistic support in the form of wheelbarrows, planting material like pineapple suckers, Wellington boots, etc., to the food aid. Sons of Zion Farmers Cooperative was also registered in 85, and under the SOZ umbrella, we went into pineapple farming to sell pineapples to exporters. And SOZ won numerous awards at both district and regional level for our work. Then following the visit of Gadman in 1986, the 12 tribes of Israel was established. The Ethiopian African Black International Congress, Bobo Shanti, followed in 1987, and that delegation included Priest Jakai, Priest Henry, and the rest. Other camps like the Hola Trinity camp at Adiabra was also set up in the late 80s to 90s. We also had the Befi Krobna and Bingley House in Bankasim, the repatriation camp in Kumasi, and some other mansions in the Ashanti region that I is aware of. So this road hasn't been without challenge. And let me just touch on one or two challenges that Rastafari has faced over the years. There are numerous stories of stigmatization from the early days, and there were families that couldn't accept the so-called black sheep of the family whose faith and way of life implied consumption of weed and all that. Then there was discrimination over employment, educational opportunities, which still persist till this day. And I believe indeed each one of us here can catalog some challenges they've encountered due to their faith or appearance or something. And the last one is the apathy of the community towards organization and development. And here I'd like to remind us of what Usajifu said. Organization decides everything. And it's important that we find ways to make the community appreciate the need for organization. In recent times, there's been quite a lot of developments. And I like to say that since the early days, Rastafari has come a long way. The presence of Rastafari in the creative industries, particularly music, the arts, and the crafts, is pronounced. The status quo in terms of attitudes towards Rastafari is changing, and this can be attributed to various reasons. These range from the international exposure many Ghanaians have had through travel or technology, and also the widespread adoption of locks as a hairstyle. So it's no more as frightening. It's increasingly becoming a daily feature within the body politic of Ghana. It's also been suggested that the Rastafari concept of back to the roots finds parallel in the Ghanaian concept of Sankofa, which is back to the roots. And that could explain the magnetic appeal Ghana holds for our virgin ancestry. Indeed, the similarities of culture, shared history through the transatlantic slave trade between Jamaica and Ghana has also been a major contribution to the presence of Rastafari in Ghana. Today, I believe Rastafari can be seen in every region in Ghana in various sectors of the economy, from the culture and creative industries to academia, through politics to tech. We have Ras Mubarak holding the enviable record as being the first Rastaman to be elected MP. He was elected MP for Kumbungu in the northern region on the ticket of the NDC in 2016. And last night at the Kuchoko Festival, I met Ras Mubarak hanging out with the musicians, and he was telling me that he doesn't remember the last time he had seen me on stage, because I was on the bill last night performing at the Kuchoko Festival. Ras Mubarak is actually a GBC reporter who played reggae music and did reports from Jamaica. He reported on the Reggae Sunsplash and other international festivals. And I strongly
culture.
The way the creatives have stormed this ninth parliament, I would like to encourage Rastafari youths not to shy away from politics, but chart paths that would ensure that I voices and presence is felt in the legislature, so that laws that inure to our benefit as Rastafari and indeed as Africans are passed. I know there are contrary opinions to this view. However, in a multitude of reasoning, I believe wisdom is found. So let me quickly touch on the Rastafari Council, Ghana. Council was established in 2009 after some efforts at establishing a united front for Rastafari. So members of EWF, TTI, and other mansions came together with other Rastafari who are not affiliated to any organization and formed the Rastafari Council Ghana. Council at inception established the Black Star Line Cooperative Credit Union, but unfortunately, we ceded control of the credit union to the wider Pan-African community. And I personally strongly believe that that was one of the reasons for the comatose state the credit union finds itself now. I'm strongly inclined to believe that Rastafari has learned our lessons and will know what not to do in order to succeed in our subsequent ventures and initiatives. Since 2016, RCG has held annual conferences to engage with the community and our stakeholders. Conferences have been held in Accra, Kumasi, Pando, and Mankasim, with a variety of themes ranging from trade to economics, family welfare, and education, among others. We've also had keynote speakers from academia, chieftaincy, professional services, and Rastafari, with guests of honor being government officials, politicians, and public figures. The 10th National Rastafari Conference, which was the most recent one held on the 1st of March, had Professor Imhotep Alagidede as keynote speaker on the theme Rastafari Education and Empowerment, Building Stronger Communities. And Prof did justice to the theme using the story of eagles and crows and the role of the eagle Kadwa in liberating her people. Council has also done advocacy for the rights of our people, the freeing of the herbs, and the granting of citizenship to our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, among other activities. There's, however, the need to scale up our work and venture into economics by leveraging development models like the cooperative model. Before I go into what I perceive to be the way forward, let me just share a few words on the Rastafari Continental Council. In 2017 in Shashamani, Rastafari from 10 African countries gathered as part of the All Africa Rastafari Gathering.
Radio, culture.
The Rastafari Continental Council as a representative body for Rastafari in Ghana. Subsequently, reps of 26 African countries, namely Angola, Benin, Botswana, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Ghana, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Lesotho, Liberia, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Niger, Nigeria, Seychelles, Sierra Leone, South Africa, South Sudan, Swaziland, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe have signed up to the Rastafari Continental Council, and representatives of the diaspora from the US of A, UK, Brazil, Guyana, Jamaica, and Barbados are part of the RCC's activities. We've also signed an MOU with the Caribbean Rastafari Organization to work together on a number of areas. Since 2017, RCC has held continental summits in Ethiopia, South Africa, and Ghana, with regional meetings in Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria. Ghana has hosted 2 RCC summits. First one was in 2018 in Koforidua, where Ambassador Frankai was the special guest of honor. And then in 2022 in Liantiwote in the Volta region. The next summit for the RCC is scheduled for May. It's going to be between May 23rd to June 2nd in South Africa, Cape Town to be precise. So, way forward, having spoken about what I believe to be the development of Rastafari, from my own perspective, I like to address the way forward on a number of issues. The first is spiritual alignment. Like I said at the introduction part of this presentation, Rastafari is coming from Judeo-Christian background with a dose of Hinduism infused, coming from vegetarianism and things like that. Now, with the movement having gone full circle from Africa to the New World and back, it is essential that our cultural values as continental Africans feature within the Rastafari ecosystem. So, how does libation, ancestral veneration, and other African traditions and values like polygamy, etc., play out within Rastafari? Another aspect in terms of the way forward is welfare, social aspects, family, and marriage within Rastafari. There's the need to emphasize the importance of family as a community cornerstone. Due to the antagonism with families in the early days, there's the need to repair that view of family and stress the importance of strong families within Rastafari to foster the empowerment of the community. Then youth development. The youth are the future. And if you look within Rastafari, the leadership globally is very octogenarian. And I need to pay attention, special attention to the development of our youths, to foster self-pride in them. And this can be done through training camps, boot camps, etc. It's actually gratifying to know that Professor Ponwadie and Seven Fireside are working on a curriculum for our youths to ensure that they get the right understanding and knowledge of Rastafari. And then my understanding is that the curriculum will cater to the various levels of youth from kindergarten through school to tertiary, and we're looking at that.
Radio, culture.
From culture to technology. We must also establish mentorship programs for our youths. Health. Emphasis on healthy living cannot be overemphasized. Regular checkups is something that going forward the community must uphold. It's for that reason that the council held a screening exercise as part of the 10th National Rastafari Conference. They say a healthy individual means a healthy community. And it's noteworthy that Dr. Uyafia Kenteng has assured us that he's prepared to even do 2 health screening exercises for our community every year. Next is community development. We need to establish initiatives to develop our Rastafari communities, either through taking advantage of state interventions or Rastafari-generated initiatives like scholarships, skills development programs, capacity building programs, etc. And I like to actually underscore the need to establish scholarship schemes for brilliant but needy youths in our community. Yes, there's free education, but in senior high schools, but if you look at the number of the amount of material the students have to print because textbooks are not available, and the fact that my granddaughter was in school first term, she was in the school for 1 month, and she's going to be home for 3 months. So parents have to send their youths to special classes so that for 3 months they don't just sit at home. And these are the areas that some of these scholarship schemes can be useful. Then effective governance. The council has to improve its governance systems. Since 2009, we haven't held an election in the council, and we need to review our constitution to ensure that we adhere to good governance practices. Now, I'd also like to mention economic and political development. I need to pay particular attention to economic and political development as a movement with a clear mandate to foster African reconstruction and unity. Our development in these areas is crucial, and in terms of economic development, we must pool resources to pick some of the low-hanging fruits. And the Farmers Cooperative is a ready vehicle for that purpose. As I indicated earlier, I have operated farmers cooperatives in the past, although we had immense state support. This time around, we would need to mobilize the resources from our community. And this is where transparency, integrity, and fundraising skills will come in. Very, very essential. International trade is another area of immense potential for I&I. And with the number of craftsmen in our community, our websites should have a commercial page for e-commerce. We must use our website extensively to trade internationally so that our community benefits. Our various participations in the All-African Trade Gathering has demonstrated the demand for Ghanaian products. And as we speak, there are markets in the entire diaspora we can explore. In the political space, we need to provide some political science education for our community. Yes, we can develop independent of the political system. However, let's take a sheet from His Majesty's playbook. Political governance is essential to the development of our people. Science, culture, and technology. We need to pay special attention to science and the evolving technologies. How can we leverage AI? How can we leverage Bitcoin? All these things. We need to throw spotlights on them and see how we can positively leverage these technologies. If the incredible scientific feats of Egypt are perceived as a distant past, and to some they sound as myths, just next to us, the Dogon tribe in Mali clearly demonstrates the science is not alien to Africa, but rather native to us. And so we have to be intentional in our engagement with science and technology. I've spoken about the integration of African church within Rastafari already. And this is an area we'll have to be deliberate. The infusion of Dinkra symbols, Sankofa, Jinyamia, Rinipankasa, and things. We need to be deliberate about all these things. With the introduction of the Black Star experience to build on the success of the year of return and the beyond the return successes of the previous government, I believe I have a huge opportunity to step forward with our culture to provide solutions to the multifaceted socioeconomic challenges I face as a people. So this year, for instance, the Rastafari Council Ghana intends to collaborate with the Diaspora Coalition to host a cultural festival as part of the Emancipation Day celebrations on 1st August. For the way forward, the last thing I'd like to mention is improved engagement with the 6th region of the African Union. And this can be done through a variety of means like cultural exchange programs, educational programs, and trade, among others. With our very own Kofi Dakweke, KOD, in charge of diaspora affairs at the presidency, we have to develop programs that will facilitate improved engagement and the subsequent mutual benefits it will produce. So I've shared my thoughts on what I believe the areas for engagement for the way forward are. Let me say a few things, then I will step back and we engage. Ambassador Frankai Mwalimu Tafara Osabun Pesa the first of blessed memory, former ambassador of Antigua and Barbuda to Ethiopia, said Rastafari is indeed ahead of the curve, and his reason is simple. That while Rastafari was proclaiming the virtues of vegetarianism or vegan eating and idle diets, we were ridiculed back in the day. I mean, I clearly remember in the body we were teased, and they said because we couldn't afford to buy fish, we were claiming to be vegetarians. Today, as we speak, vegetarianism is in vogue, with numerous people becoming vegetarian.
Radio culture.
Diet. In conclusion, the international development of Rastafari has been described as a journey from local resistance to global cultural influence from the hills of Jamaica. Rastafari now reverberates around the four corners of the earth, either through music, our lifestyle, or symbols and paraphernalia. Here in Ghana, this is very evident in the fact that on both occasions that His Excellency, the former President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, granted citizenship to our kindred from the diaspora, he quoted Peter Tosh from his song, African, which says, no matter where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. This shows how pervasive Rastafari has become in Ghanaian culture. On the streets of Accra, Kumasi, Tamale, and Gwechi, youths greet each other, say Wagwan, and use other Rastafari symbols and graphics on a daily basis. As we trot in this 21st century, we need to anticipate the next 100 years of Rastafari. Come 2nd November 2030, which is barely 5 years from today, when Rastafari marks 100 years of the movement, as against 2,000 years of Christianity, 1,000 years of Islam, and 3,000 years of Buddhism. We need to take stock of where the movement is coming from and where we're heading. Questions confronting I include, will we continue as an amorphous group of people, or will we introduce some organization and structure into our work? Will we attempt to synthesize the various strands of Rastafari teachings to present some uniformity anchored in the teachings of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie? And finally, how can we ensure the development of our movement devoid of CIA and other subversive agents? Haile Selassie says you must pool your resources and work together for the development of Africa. That Africa is one continent, one people, and one nation. And notes, Africa's salvation lies in unity. Let me conclude with the words of Osagifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, that the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it's linked with the total liberation of Africa. I would like to paraphrase Osagifo's words. Indeed, the development of Rastafari in Ghana is meaningless unless it's linked with the total development of Rastafari in Ghana. Food for thought. Give thanks. Let's reason. Give thanks.
Radio culture. Radio culture. Transmitting online.
And I know it's going to be some real edifying reasoning that we're about to hear.
Radio culture.
Or alternative views, I believe we can engage this thing.
Can I go ahead?
You are the moderator, so do your thing.
Man, I didn't know I was moderator. Okay. Yes, Daddy B, you said a couple things at the end when you said the African unity, right, and the independence of Africa, of Ghana, it's meaningless unless linked up with the total liberation of Africa. You said independence of were you saying the independence of Rastafari? Or the independence of Africa? What was you modified it to say to link it to Rastafari, right?
So what I sought to do is to indicate that Haile Selassie says we must pool our resources and work together for the development of Africa. Africa is one continent, one people, and one nation, and our salvation lies in unity. So what I'm positing is that the development of Rastafari in Ghana shouldn't be in isolation.
Absolutely.
Against the backdrop of what Kidamawi teaches us about African development and the statements by our first president that the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it's linked to the total liberation of Africa. It is within that context that I'm saying that the development of Rastafari in Ghana shouldn't be done in isolation. It has to be linked to the total development of Rastafari in Africa. And that's one of the things that the Rastafari Council, the Continental Council, seeks to do, where we learn from each other in each other's countries. And as we're speaking right now, there's a request with Royal Kofi Asante from Sierra Leone, where some of the youths there want to come and understudy the Rastafari Council in Ghana. And so those are the kind of things I'm talking about. A few, months ago, a brethren from Nigeria came and stayed amongst the 12 tribe brethren and visited other mansions. So I just want us to be aware of the fact that Ghana occupies a unique position where Rastafari on the continent, to a large extent, is looking up to us for a certain type of leadership. So that as we're doing our things, we should bear in mind that the good things we do can be replicated elsewhere on the continent. Thank you.
Give thanks. Yes, that's a crucial point. I just want to just agree with you, on the point that you're making. Sort of they require of us, say, make we start to think like our starting point, our default position be Africa. Right? Because I think the problem, or at least a key problem, is we think of our default position as Ghana. But based on what you're saying, I think that it's time for us to maybe invert the perspective, right? Like, oh yeah, we're Ghanaians who are doing things for Africa. Why don't we say we're African, functioning for the Black world, basically? And as a result, the Ghanaianness is going to benefit the people in Ghana. I don't know if you see what I'm trying to say, because the one main problem is this: like last time we were vibing, Prof Oponwade went to that point. He stuck to that point a couple times when he kept on talking about the micro nationalism, or he was actually talking about micro ethnicities, right? But sometimes we graduate from that and we tie into micro-nationalism, and that becomes our starting point. We overemphasize the Ghanaianness. But the point is Africa. Ghana is nothing but Ghana is functional only because of Africa. The Jews who keep Nkrumah going, it'd be Africa. If there's something so special about Ghana, it'd be Africa. What would they deal with as Rasta? And if we could call on His Majesty, and based on what you're saying, so let's say what you're talking about is so crucial when you say brethren are linking Ghana for all of this. It's because of Africa, not because Ghana is so special. And His Majesty said another thing. He said, tied to what you're saying, we have to know each other's histories if we go unite, right? Like in a serious way, because if we start to understand our histories or understand our histories, we're not going to put too much emphasis on we're so special and we're Ghanaians. If Ghana is anything, it's the same with the brethren in Togo and the sisters there too, right? Congo, love the way you run through the people, the nations, the peoples of the continent. We will link to the RCC. You go through people from all over. Let's hold it as the starting point, the main building block, Africa versus Ghana. That's one little thing I might want to say. But I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yes, so let's hear from others, and then maybe I could come back in. So
can I come in real quick?
Yeah.
Can I come in real quick?
Yes, yeah, beloved.
Yes, I give thanks. Yes, so we live on Radio Culture
Radio Culture.
at this time, and I have my own points that I want to come in at some point if I get the opportunity. But I want to quickly respond to how the conversation has started so far. I feel like it's very important also to acknowledge the fact that really and truly, there's no one point in time that Africa was one homogeneous unit under one strict government like that. So in our bid to say, yes, we want to reunite Africa and everything like that, let's not have a utopian attitude towards that, right? Fact of the matter is that in trying to manage the whole of Africa with all the complexities that come with it, with all the different issues at every point that you go to, because even within Ghana, with a different, within Ghana, we're trying to find a common language, common local language to represent Ghana, and we can't find one because everybody thinks, nah, because of this, it must be the other one. So then you can expand that to to a continental level, right? So people like Kwame Nkrumah breezed past that by, propounding ideas like Ghana, Guinea, Mali. Okay, if the rest of Africa won't come along, let's start with what we have so that others can maybe see what's going on and come along. We see the AES, they are doing something similar. Right? Okay, all the other French-speaking countries think it's okay to still be tied to the apron strings of France. Fair enough. Go ahead, stay there. We are going to form our own union, cut off France, and show you how the thing should go. And right now, guess what? There are countries that are seeking to join them. Chad and Togo want to join the AES. So we should be very careful when we trying to. Yes, I do agree. We have to start from the standpoint of, yes, we want a united Africa and everything. But at the point where we know that at His Majesty's time, the Casablanca group and the whatever other group and all these other things became a block. And up till this day, we still have that, right? I suggest humbly that we breeze past that and go to the point where if it's Ghana that is going to set the example for the others to follow, let's show it. Let's do that. Because if we look at Rwanda, for instance, within our lifetimes, we saw a Hollywood movie made about the atrocities that went on in Rwanda, the war and all of that. And then within our very lifetimes, when we're still here, Rwanda has become a completely different country that people point to for completely different reasons, right? And now people are looking at that model. What did they do right? What can be done, right? So I feel like, yes, Africa is a standpoint. That should be our focus. And I like when Seven says, what we're doing now should be a starting point. Because yes, it is a starting point. We're not saying that Ghana is the be-all in all. But if Ghana can be put under a certain governance system that will chart the course for others to follow and see this is the way to go, I feel like we should really consider that. My humble, suggestion on that. But later on, as I said, if I get the opportunity, I'll come in with some other points. Give thanks.
Radio Culture. Radio Culture.
Floor. Just rock on. Finish everything then we can.
Okay. All right. Give thanks. So some of my things will be points, others will be questions. So with the points, I'll just touch on them quickly. Daddy B, you made a point about veganism, right? Back in the day when people thought we couldn't afford fish, and so they ridiculed us and all that. I remember very well. I had an experience like that. I was in Legon. I went to Circle. I went to do my business in the city, and then I went to go get some food. And back then, I would like to get some kinky and just red pepper. It's a thing for me. I would like kinky, pepper, onions, and tomatoes and avocado. And I'll bring my own avocado and eat that. So I went to go buy kinky from this gentle lady, who I said, "Oh, no fish." And then the woman just took some fish not from what was on sale, right, from the other little basket by her side, and dumped it in my food and winked at me like, yeah, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. I got you. And I had to calmly explain to her that, no, thank you very much, but this is the situation. Anyhow, I wanted to make the point that beyond that, it's not just veganism. It's also ganja, the big elephant in the room. Because we are the ones who were brutalized for ganja. Let us face it. We took the beating. You made a point about Big Dread went to jail for what? For ganja. And today, even when they started talking about the legalization of industrial hemp marijuana, not even, here comes all sorts of different type of groups wanting to claim that, oh, nah, it's ganja is not a Rasta thing. All of a sudden, it's not a Rasta thing, really? After all the years that we have suffered the stigma, what's natural trauma? Even if you haven't smoked ganja, they think you smoked ganja. You know, so I think these are some of the points that need to be made. It's not just veganism. It is, and you are so right when you say that we are ahead of the curve. Things that we speak about. Years later, you hear other people speaking about it, and people are applauding. Right? Everybody's applauding Parliament because they want one or the other thing done. But this is something that's been in our music forever. Get up, stand up for your rights. Everybody's now, idealizing the need to stand up for somebody's rights. But we've been saying this forever. So that's one quick point that I wanted to make. And then you also made the point about international trade. I think it's very vital for us to plug in there. In this day and age, it shouldn't be very difficult for Rastafari Council, whether it's the Continental, whether it's the Ghana one, whether it's whichever other unit we can work with, have a solid website. Because the thing is this: if somebody wants to buy from somebody that they trust, they would go all the way to do that, right? So I feel like it's something that we should definitely consider, and it shouldn't be very difficult setting up a website or setting up some type of channel through which we can trade among ourselves without passing through the so-called established channels. Right now, if you want to go from Jamaica to Ghana, or from, listen, when I was going from here, the USA to Ghana, I flew past Ghana to Kenya, and then flew back to Ghana. Like, some of these things have to be streamlined. Same thing when I was leaving, I had to leave from Ghana to Kenya, and then like you going further away. I don't get it. Can't we get past some of these things? The AES, I keep going back to the AES, the Alliance of Sahelian States, are showing the way. They're showing that it's possible within only a few years. These three countries, all three of them, are becoming some of the fastest growing economies. Just years after cutting ties with France, just years after deciding that, okay, we're going to be pro-people, we're going to think about people instead of thinking about ourselves or thinking about our puppeteers or whoever, So I don't want to take all the oxygen out of the room. These are just some of the things I wanted to touch on. And last, point before I just, seed off, the welcoming ceremonies that we've been somehow subconsciously developing, right? Initially, I had a thing about it. I was like, somehow, something in me was like, okay, when we go to Jamaica, they don't receive us the same way. But remember, it's a different scenario, okay? If anything is going to be done, somebody has to take the first step. So let's get that, on the side. But again, I feel like slowly and gradually, this is becoming a culture. But I hope that we don't just have it for just so-called, pop stars, reggae artists. But when we have some of our dedicated, levicated brethren and sistren deciding to make the trip back home to repatriate or even to just visit on a spiritual level, let's organize that welcoming ceremony that we show up at the airport with. It's beautiful. I love it. Right? And then I made a Facebook post and tagged the Ministry of Culture and Tourism. These are some of the things I think they should plug into easily, because people who are making that spiritual journey, after all, belong here. It's not like, you're more favor. We owe it to them to welcome them back home. And we shouldn't reserve this, just like I said, just for the pop stars. We should reserve this for anybody who has been touched enough to make the trip back home on any spiritual level. Give thanks.
Radio, culture.
Yes, I give thanks. Give thanks. I believe that we all basically saying the same things when it comes to African unity and the approach we want to adopt in terms of our development going forward. Africa is the big thing. However, they say brighten the corner where you are. So I believe that we're cognizant of that fact. Any more contributions, questions, comments? Give thanks.
Yes, give thanks to the house, and I trust that we are all doing. President Bosco, when you were talking, you made mention of the fact that Dr. Nkrumah was an ardent student of Brother Mugabe. And if you look at the philosophy of Mugabe, it's for Black Africans to return to their home and to do things that suit their.
Mike, have you finished? Michael, have you finished? Becky,
Radio culture. Radio culture.
Right move. Do it.
So I give thanks and praises. I'm still listening and see if maybe at the end of everything I can say slap shy brethren, give thanks.
Michael, please, if you are here, I think your line dropped or something.
Proxy war won't go along with it no more. She made a promise as a child. She never broke her rights. The story narrative. Imagine. These autobiographies changing impossible answer.
Talking about what we believe to be the development of Rastafari in Ghana, we've looked at some of the things that we should be looking at in terms of going forward. And I indicated that Rastafari would be 100 years in 5 years' time. As the first generation of Rastafari here on the continent, what are some of the things we believe should occupy our attention and focus in the next years ahead of us? So I see teacher Martin here. I see Professor Wadia here. Michael Kluger was speaking and his line dropped. I see Black Gold. I see Black Militant.
But I'm back. I'm connected.
You're back. Okay. You have the floor. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So I was. Someone's audio is on. So I was talking about the fact that Nkrumah studied under Mugabe. And
wait, you said Nkrumah studied where?
Hello?
Yeah.
I am saying that when you were talking, did you say that Nkrumah studied under
Did you mean Marcus Garvey? Marcus Garvey.
Okay, no, what I indicated is that Nkrumah is one of Garvey's biggest students. I don't mean he literally studied at his feet, but Nkrumah in his autobiography says that of all the literature he studied, it was the philosophy and opinion of Marcus Garvey that had the most impact on him, and he sought to answer the questions Garvey had raised in the philosophy and opinions, namely,
okay, so that's fine. So the idea of Africans coming together as one unit and propagating the African unity, I'm sure that Nkrumah got it from him. And so he came down and tried to do it. But some of his critics were on the view that at that time that Nkrumah was propagating the African unity, at that time, not all of us, not all African countries have had that vision. So Nkrumah should have focused more on building Ghana before talking about African unity. If you narrow that idea into our context as we have it today, you earlier said that this cooperative farming thing was some years back registered, and a lot of efforts have gone in till it has gotten to our time today. I am of the view that now that we have, revived this idea, we must channel our energy and focus on how we can own it and improve on it and make it happen, so that among we, like you said, some of Rastas are coming to Ghana to come and study from us. Some of them are studying we are all studying from all of you, our elders. So I just want to say that, and the issue of export that you mentioned, whether intra or ACTRA or all those things, are all narrowed down to what we can put on the table as something that belongs to us as Rastafari Council Ghana. And I feel that now that we've registered our cooperative and we are about starting the work, I want to use this opportunity once again to remind all of us that we have registered it, and the only thing that is left now is for us to go and work on the field, because everything has been done. Calculations, we want to do okro, we want to do this, everything has been done. What is left now is the funds, so that we can go on the field to start work. And today is 9th March. So if we are talking about March, we are about 2 weeks behind. And I'm just trying to use this medium to appeal to all of us. So all those of us who are shareholders and potential shareholders, to show more, how shall I call it, more soft spot towards this idea, so that we can all collectively push this agenda and use it as our key flagship activity to the whole world. Now, secondly, I see today's generation, today's Rastas, as people who are in the technological world. So now this question is for you. How are we going to fuse technology and the traditional way of Rasta, in a way that will not leave anything behind? We'll combine the two and then have the maximum benefits of these two options. But before I go, I just want to plead with all of us to take this cooperative thing serious. We are all ready to start work, and it just left with the funds to go on the field. I give thanks, and may Jah bless us all. Thank you so much.
Give thanks. Before Daddy B, you go through Sister Becky. Sister Rebecca, can you please mute your mic?
Please, I'm far from Accra. I'm at Adamahinko, far.
Yeah, but so, can you mute your mic? Can you just click the mute? Right. Mute it.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, sis. Yes.
Yeah, give thanks.
Give thanks. It's still on. Can you mute it?
So, Becky, if you look on your phone, you will see an icon like a micro.
Right, move. Good protect moments of the history that we don't forget. Rastafari for the people with fresh legs.
Radio culture, radio culture, it's reggae dance, radio culture.
How you remember this, your setbacks, liberation, how you tell yourself to come back. Situation, songs and rising up, perception, transmitting energy.
Radio culture. Transmitting online.
Was coming out of the Second World War. And that is when the US supported them with the Marshall Plan, which led to their recovery. At the time, when Osadifo was talking about African unity, they hadn't even started talking about European unity. They were actually talking about rebuilding their economies. Today, they've overtaken us. They've actually actualized their unity through the EU. I strongly believe that African unity, like right now, our leaders are saying it's 2063 that Africa will unite. And I dare say that the realities on the ground do not support that. Today, there's Rastafari from all over Africa living in Ghana. Same way, if you go all over the world, yes, there are incidents of xenophobia and things, but by and large, the integration of our peoples, devoid of the politics and all that, is going on. In Ghana, there's so many Nigerians living with us, trading. If you go to Nigeria, it's say plenty Ghanaians. So African unity will happen. And what I believe Rastafari should do is be at the vanguard of this. And that is one of the actions that the Rastafari Continental Council seeks to roll out. It's not a perfect system, but they say a journey of 1,000 miles starts to step. Over the various summits we've had movements of bridging and sistering within Africa, engaging and building networks. So I believe it's a journey of 1,000 miles, and it started with what we're doing now. On the Farmers Cooperative, I believe that the leadership of the cooperative has to schedule a presentation to the House such that, people can engage and then would join, as in buy their shares. Because as a matter of fact, time and tide waits for no man. And if the numbers are exposed to us, and we appreciate that, look, to establish a cooperative farm, you can start like the Japanese philosophy of Kaizen, where we start and we build on it. The youths are largely playing in the digital space. There are people who, once they get up or they wake up, their phone is their constant companion. And so digital points of entry are some of the tools Rastafari has to deploy. For instance, thanks to technology, we're having this engagement. There are people participating from America, people participating from Ghana and various parts of Ghana. And then this content that we generate here is put on our YouTube platform. So going forward, we just need to know how to curate content for which digital platforms to foster engagements with the youth. Give thanks.
Holding culturally codified.
Lion Jabi, you have anything you want to say?
Proxy war won't go along with it no more. She made a promise as a child. She never broke her rights.
Can everybody hear me on the platform? Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Your volume is a bit low.
All right, just give me 1 second. Is it clear now?
Yeah, a little bit better.
We try the best as we can. The gifters, I just joined the meeting, so I'm just listening and then I'll chip in as time people have seen the conversation. So give thanks for the opportunity.
Love and light.
Rastafari.
Can I make a quick point? If looks like yes, quick point. So Rasta, you also made a point about the Judeo-Christian origins of Rastafari, right? And I've been following some social media discourse going on. People, wanting to situate the context of Rastafari properly and everything of that nature. Now, yes, we know that we can trace or find Rastafari within the context of the Bible and all of that. But then again, I think it's very important to make the note for everyone that it's not, Rastafari is not restricted to the Bible. In which case, if for some of us that were born into Christian homes, it was an easy connection, right? Because you can read the Bible and then you make those direct connections. But then, if we look at the fact that not all of us came from Christian homes, doesn't that even suggest that Rastafari transcends what we were, what was pointed to us in the Bible? There's a very big tendency for us as Rastas to just limit the concept of Rastafari to the Bible, and in that way question our own values as Africans, right? Because I saw this post on Facebook where somebody was referring to traditional worship in very derogatory terms. And again, I'm asking, we as Africans, right? Do we, before we know that the Bible did not pop up with creation. The Bible, was written at a point. But I go beyond that point. So are we now going to explain away Rastafari on the heels of the Bible and leave it at that? Or do we really want to face up with reality and just discuss the truth about the true origins of I, existence as people? I as Africans now, like, this is not, we used to say all the time, the John 3:16. Where's our own John 3:16? Because there's certain people, if you tell them about Chumesi Ankara, they know who that is. But if you tell them about Judas, they don't know who Judas is. They only know Judas because you're telling them about Judas. And you want them to believe Judas. And most of us believe that there's a certain Judas. But then, when it comes to our own Chumesi Ankara, people want to look at that in derogatory terms. I think one of the challenges for I as Rastafari, as we move forward into that new age that the Bosco that you referred to, is to be very, very philosophically clear about I philosophy, about I concept of Rastafari, and not just leave it at certain biblical connections. Give thanks.
Radio culture.
Yes, thanks. I just want to add to what Jack Beloved just said. I think that we should try, the intellectuals among us, as Rastafaris, we should try and write our own sort of Bible, where it will involve the African feeling, the diaspora feeling, and the origin of Rastafari, so that when we are reading it, we will not be making reference. I'm not saying that the Bible is not good. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I feel that when we get our own indigenous book, that we can refer people to when people ask, so this Rastafari thing that you are doing, where can we read you from? Is it only on the net? No, we can also refer people to a book like the Bible with our own label, our own instructions, our own way of writing our verses and everything, projecting the spirit of Africanness, projecting the mind of African, because I see Rastafarian as not as Africanness, but it is more tilted towards African way of thinking and African mentality. Just like Daddy B, you said that Peter Todd said, no matter where you find yourself, as far as you are a black man, you are an African. And Rastafari is more connected, or blacks are known for Rastafari more than other race. So if we had a book and the book projects the majority of the people who are known to be related to Rastafari, I think it will resonate more to the youth and to our children, because we'll be teaching them the principles of Rastafari. What are we going to use? That will be I give thanks. Yes, I give thanks.
So, Jah beloved, quick one. The first point I mentioned, which I refer to as spiritual alignment, is where I indicated that Rastafari, as we know it today, has some Judeo-Christian antecedents. However, with the movement having gone full circle from Africa to the New World and back, it is essential, like you're saying, that our cultural values as continental Africans must feature within the Rastafari ecosystem. And so that's how I ask, how does libation, ancestral veneration, polygamy, and other African traditions and customs play out within Rastafari? And this is where Garvey said to the brothers and sisters in the diaspora that when you come to Africa, it is not just coming to teach people, but you're also coming to learn. And that is where I and I have to make meaningful inputs to the philosophy of Rastafari, because in the West, they were seeing one side of the coin. From this side, there's another side of the coin with the whole value system. And it's important that we on the continents lead the path of integrating our values, traditions, and customs that are, let me say, relevant to the future into the body politic of Rastafari. And on the issue of chronicles, what we're doing right now is we're laying the foundations for the compilation of the chronicles of Rastafari. And let me remind ones and ones that Rastafari as a movement, as a faith, as a way of life, as a doctrine, whatever you want to call it, is barely 100 years. And so you're looking at certain other traditions that have crystallized over years. And I believe with the intellectual capacity that is available to I and I, our brethren and sisters in academia would take the lead in doing some of these documentation, which down the road of history will form the basis for some of the philosophies and knowledge that will be espousing as the way forward for Rastafari. Give thanks.
entities. One with a strong background in economics, right, is very important.
Yes, Jamalcom.
Yes,
it
sir.
seems your line is faint.
President, is he okay?
Yeah.
Culture. All right. Greetings in the house. So I wanted to know that there is now the era of linkages and partnerships. So right now we have the African Prosperity Networks, and I think the last time they had an engagement, they brought in over 4 or 5 heads of state within the sub-region. And I was trying to inquire for one of their links, Dr. Nyakopong, how we can have a partnership and play an integral role in what they do, or actually find a footing in what they do. And he said he was presently on leave, so he will resume and you see where we can take it off from. I don't know whether it will be of interest to the collective, because we need to be having footprints in some of these things. So that is one of the issues I wanted to raise. And also the other one is the synergy. The need for us to have the synergies from the front of the Empress, to have a synergy from the international representatives of the RCG, so that we can all synergize and have a solid front that can blossom into a very louder voice. I don't know whether that can be consolidated to as well. These are some propositions on my mind, so I wanted to put it across.
Fantastic point. And the future is one of collaboration. And so we will await eagerly the link for the Africa Prosperity Network so that we can find out how to engage with them. And it is within that same spirit of collaboration that the council is affiliated to the Diaspora Coalition, which is a network of various Pan-African organizations here in Ghana. It would be good for us to develop the appropriate synergies. And I'm hoping that over the coming weeks, our various commissions, not just the Women's Commission, but the Education Commission and all other commissions, would be up and running so that the synergies all these commissions and networks build will accelerate the development and progress of our movement. So give thanks, Ras.
She never broke a right. The story narrative persona became a person. His autobiography makes things impossible. And so, skill technique inadequate Tennessee. Machine learning how to innovation to explain ourselves. They got here.
In one of the things I mentioned in terms of challenge is apathy. And I may be wrong, but the genesis of Rastafari was such that it was like each man for himself, for want of a better phrase. And so most races, or some races, develop in isolation where, you know, as a Rasta man, you can be in your corner and practice your liberty. So it doesn't seem that the need for organization, the need for networking, the need for doing things together does not seem to be fully well appreciated. And then I also indicated that to do certain things, transparency, integrity, and then organizational abilities will have to come to the fore, so that we should be able to find ways to engage effectively with the community, so that ones who step forward and say, for instance, I want to be part of this commission or provide leadership for this, we should appreciate that we are the trailblazers, and before us there's no blueprint, there's no textbook, there's no playbook for us to work from, and there's no salary coming. So we are like volunteers and we are pioneers, so that we can be able to craft effective ways of mobilizing and organizing. It's something that eats some of us, and we're still grappling with the best way to address it. Thank you.
I think it's a priority, so maybe particular focus has to be given to it, for an intense period of time, like as an urgent issue, because it can drag on for years, and it's not just going to solve itself by chance, right? So maybe immediately trying to, if it's a think tank, if it's serious, because I think one main problem is the ideas that we're working with are not aligned. The fact that someone does not, I personally don't accept the idea that Rastafari is some laissez-faire kind of thing. You do whatever you want, because I think sometimes we just locate Rastafari in what people are doing rather than Haile Selassie, and that's Rastafari, right? That's the only thing that can bind us, and it ties right back into your thing you said a moment ago about trying to integrate African values in Rastafari. I'm not too clear about what that means, because Rastafari, is it so difficult to say Rastafari is African? I don't think so. We have to just be clear about that. As Rastafari is Africa, it's Selassie, right? Everything is because of Selassie, right? So we're thinking of the liberty must be based on that rather than what people have been doing. And then, also we'll wait forever. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe we can start to approach this thing more like, okay, how do we even see Rastafari? We help each other. You help me understand Rastafari based on this more solid premise than the idea that, what are we integrating into? Let's ask ourselves. When you said we've come full circle means we've come where we're supposed to be. That's Africa. From day one, Rastafari is saying Africa. Right? Some of us grew up thinking everything was like the brethren out there who were hailing Rastafari were just dealing with Africa. They wanted to be like us on the continent, or at least that part, African-ness in themselves is what they're dealing with. So what am I integrating into? That's my question. There's nothing to integrate into. It's Africa, So I'm just saying, as a point of urgency, I think we have to clarify these things, which will feed into our sense of urgency, our clarity, and our sense of purpose. Will become more of a driver that would make us do some of these things. The synergies will be more meaningful. Because right now we may be doing a lot of synergies, but the ideas are all over the place and things just keep fluctuating. That's what I think. I don't know what you think about that, or if other people have other inputs.
Yes, so the floor is open, and it will be great to hear from others on the platform. I can see about 16 of us here. Lion Jabia said that he's observing. I see iPhone. I see Professor Oponwadie. I see Martino. I see Black Militancy, Black Gold. So please, the floor is open. Let's engage. And also, as I indicated at the start of this conversation, I do not profess to be an authority with all the answers. I've just shared my observations, thoughts, and suggestions. So let's engage. Thank you.
Yeah, without it be, those observations and insights are crucial. We need them. That's why we keep asking you questions. Please. So keep sharing. Keep telling us what you think while we're reasoning. Please don't hold back.
If that's liar. Royal Moses.
Daddy B.
Today, dear, you've been a
Daddy B.
silent observer.
Daddy Bosco.
Some of the conversations, and if you have any opinions to share, give thanks.
Yeah, man. Daddy B, can I come in real quick? Just something I need you to clear up for me real quick. All right. So you did make reference to Hinduism, right, as one of the elements of or some of one of the ways or influence. Let me just call it that, influences, or something like along those lines. Can you throw a little more light on that for me? Because when it comes to Rastafari, I'm not sure if there was a direct link with Hinduism. Was there a conscious effort to adopt that element?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what it is Leonard Percival Howell is actually described by a lot of people as the first Rastaman. I don't know if ones have heard that description of the gong.
Mm-hmm.
Where people, there's actually a whole movement right now which seeks to position him as the main man when it comes to the establishment of this faith. And I said that his name, one of the titles he gives to himself, is Gong Guru Maharaj.
Yeah.
Which translates Teacher King of Wisdom in Hindi. And I also indicated that for some of us growing up who are aware of yoga and their dietary things. So as a youth coming up into Rastafari and doing my studies and realizing that in Jamaica there was a strong East Indian community.
That's right.
And so their lifestyle, their dietary habits and things will find a way into Rastafari. That's why I referred to the title of Howell, which is Hindi. The Gong Guru Maharaj is Hindi. And that is where Bob Marley got his tough gong from. Gong Guru Maharaj. And so Bob became the tough gong. So I'm not saying that there is a wholesale Hinduism prevalent in Rastafari. I'm just saying that there were influences, and these are some of the influences I've cited. The use of the Hindi title, Gong Guru Maharaj, by one of our forebears, Leonard Percival Howell, who established Pinnacle, and the fact that our diet, which is vegetarianism, and everybody will tell you that yoga and those things, they do vegetarian. So I'm just saying that these were some of the influences. And I was building that point to say that there are Judeo-Christian influences on Rastafari. There are East Indian influences. So it shouldn't be strange, or it shouldn't be beyond us, as the thing has come full circle and has come home to Africa, for us to also put in the necessary African traditions and values within the faith. And that was the point I was building.
Interesting. Yes. Yeah, and I'm also asking because beyond that, there's also the reference to the word ganja itself, which many believe comes from the, Ganges, Indian hemp. We can make that connection also to Ghana, Abi. So there's a certain link over there and all of that. So that's where my interest was. But thanks for clearing that up for me.
Bless up.
Blessed, Lord. Could I put in two cents in that?
Yes, Neonda.
Yes, blessed. So, being from the Caribbean and understanding these things and growing up in the Caribbean with this East Indian influence, we also see locks is something that was added on to Rasta. That's not how Rasta started. Rasta started more as a Garveyite movement, a political movement, more than it was anything spiritual or cultural at the time. It evolved into these things because we have the Indians now, the Saudis, they smoke ganja, they also grow locks. They're the aesthetics in India. These things got clung on to Rasta along, like you said, with the Judaism and the Christianity. So Rasta is a constantly evolving reality for us. It's something that is constantly evolving. It's not going to stop. We're constantly going to evolve, as all religions do, and all spiritual systems evolve.
That's a great point. And I actually alluded to it in my introduction where I was talking about the origins. And I said that apart from the Judeo-Christian antecedents, it was also influenced by the Back to Africa movement, which is largely championed by Garvey. But even before Garvey became the champion of Back to Africa, there had been the likes of Bishop Turner in America, Chief Albert Sam, who was a Ghanaian who had gone to America to bring people back to Africa. So I'd actually indicated that the Back to Africa movement was also a strong influence of Rastafari. Give thanks, brethren. So I'm seeing ones and ones here, and it will be great to hear your voices. I see Dr. Sadia. We've heard from Juan Malcolm.
Skill technique, inadequate honesty. Listen, elaborate, got me feeling.
So please, I believe we've been here for nearly 2 hours. So if there are any final thoughts, I believe we can start having them. This conversation can never end in one city. Like Neonda indicated, Rastafari is still evolving, and so these conversations will continue. Thank you.
Greetings, Rastafari, we give thanks. And I want to zero in into people, place, and partnership. And I want to go and make a reference to one of the early material education that my brethren, Kojo Okonwa, did present to us on this platform a couple months ago about the beginning of the Naya bringing order. And some of these things come up to some of the stuff that we've talked about in the past. And then in tonight's meeting, Kwame Makon did make mention of partnership across board and how we can put ourselves in a better place geographically in an environment that we can attract. Looking at finance, looking at how we can help people to become better in the directions of what we as a people, with the ideas of Rastafari, we can put into the next generation coming so that we can become better, so that we can be looked as an attractive organization, as a group of people that they can call upon us from all angles politically, from all angles religiously, so that once we put ourselves there, we become more an attracting thing to the place that we operate from, most especially Ghana, where a lot of people can see greater values coming from us, and then the reasons why they want to be part of us as a people, so that at the end of the day, the things that we talk about agriculture-wise, we could be able to do with ease, with greater partnership, with people involved, so that at the end of the day, we can champion and make it more better for some people to have a different thought about us as a group. So that we, by doing that, and we keep consistency, by bringing consistency into what we do on a daily basis, we should be able to attract more of what we need. With the knowledge that we have on this platform, and the knowledge that we know which is outside of this platform, we can do more better, or we can become more better, and we can make things move point A to point Z. So that's what I want to add on to what has already been discussed as I join the conversation. So give thanks, Lion Javi.
Give thanks, Lion Rastafari.
The worship God cause of daily bread. Money economy must get the lead.
Yes, I hail the idea and greetings, everybody. Give thanks for the vibration. Give thanks. Radio culture. The power. All right. So, first of all, give thanks for the gathering. I also really want to commend the Rastafari Council of Ghana for the 10th anniversary conference that was held, I believe, a week or a little over a week ago. I want to commend the organizers for putting in a good conference, a great conference. I thought it was very informative and well put together. There are some few things that can be strengthened, but that is also a conversation for another time. So I want to touch on a few things. First of all, give thanks, Daddy Bosco, for your presentation. I think very insightful. Giving the history of the evolution of Rastafari in Ghana. I personally would like to, not right now, right, but maybe at a later time, find out more about the Ahumah brethren from the early times. I was fortunate to have met and known Zebi Anapo, who you also mentioned. So that within this context and many other things that you mentioned, I want to also add on to that a little bit. Big Dread coming into Ghana in 1977, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he didn't come alone. That there was a group of them who came from England, but the rest of them left, and he was the only one who stayed. And I also think that one of the pivotal events that occurred for I&I as Rastafari was the 1992 gathering at the Labadi Pleasure Beach, which was called by Professor J.N. Nkululi of blessed memory, which gave a good strength to Rastafari in Ghana. I also wanted to please call on Brother Michael Kluger. I have heard his calls. I think they are very good calls and they are timely. It would be great if you could take one of these Sunday sessions and come in and just inform all of us about the efforts being made towards the farming cooperative. Show us some pictures, for instance, of the land and what one can do to buy shares and all that kind of stuff. If you can give a detailed presentation, that would be awesome. I think that would encourage more people to feel comfortable in investing. I also want to reiterate the call by Jamal Com about collaboration with other organizations. I think that is very important. I also want to say that, in response to Kwame Nkrumah and Marcus Garvey, that, Kwame Nkrumah indeed was a member of the UNIA, which is the United Negro Improvement Association, when he was a student here at Lincoln University, which, opened him up to the ideas of Garveyism. Having said that, there are a few other things I want to touch upon. In terms of Hinduism and Rastafari, there is no Hinduism in Rastafari. And I want to say that Leonard Howell intentionally chose the name Gamgon Guru Maharaj as a way of hiding from the British authorities, who were not going to tolerate any black man such as him rising up at a particular time in Jamaica, espousing that, nobody should pay taxes to the Queen of England or the King of England at that time, and that black people should pay taxes to their own king, who he identified as Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. So one of his ways of doing that was to come under the name of Gangon Guru Maharaj and use that particularly in his writings, so that the writings are not directly connected to him, Leonard Howell, as a person. Okay. Having said that, also the whole idea, I think that referring to the presentation on Leonard Percival Howell, I gave some time back. One of the things that is occurring is this rewriting of history to make it seem as if we Black people, we didn't know anything. The Indians had to come teach us stuff. And one of the things they taught us was herb and yoga and all these things, and vegetarianism. Now, if we look historically, the Indian population in Jamaica is minuscule, tiny, compared to the Black population. In fact, the Black population in Jamaica, even today, is about 95%. And one of the things that happened in Jamaica was the influx in the 1800s, continuous influx of people who were being brought into Jamaica from the Congo region of Africa. And therefore, the Congo region has a strong, strong influence, even to this day, on the eastern part of Jamaica in particular. And one of the things that some of the ideas, even in fact, the fact that Leonard Howell began his teachings in St. Thomas, right, which is on the eastern side of the island, before moving to the adjoining state, which is where Pinnacle was, right? All this being in the eastern part of Jamaica. Leonard Howell, Kumina was foundational to Leonard Howell's teaching. All these things have strong Congo elements and basis. And part of what I'm saying is that we're talking about vegetarianism. Part of the idea of this Congo tradition are people who are totally vegetarians. Mm-hmm. They don't eat no meat, they don't eat no fish. They just culture. Vegetable, right? But to me, why are we not ascribing, why are we not making that connection? Why are we not looking at the historical fact? And this has nothing to do with what anybody has said today. I'm just saying that there has been this idea that India, for instance, is the one who taught Rastafari certain things, even including Lux, which are all totally, not grounded in historical fact. Because even if you go to ancient Kemet, some of the ancient pharaohs were Luxmen. Some you go to Ethiopia, some of the most ancient Luxmen. You come to a place where we call Ghana today, some of the most ancient practices, including wearing of Lux. Wherever there has been Black people, wearing of Lux has been part of our cultural mandate. So I think that that those connections need to be made, and those facts need to be also brought to the fore.
Prof, quick one. The ganja yes, too. The ganja came from the
absolutely
from the Congo. Yes.
Absolutely. Give thanks for chipping that in. In fact, the whole idea, and I think the presentation also made note of this. The whole idea of even blessing the herb before taking it in is a deeply Congo practice that was also brought to the island, and that was part of the foundational aspects of Rastafari. These things came from when Pinnacle was established. These practices were also established, and it moved with the people who were dispersed after Pinnacle was attacked by the Jamaican government. So those things need to be really looked at, because for me, when we move from our history and we try to give other people the credence of being responsible for our history, we are also reinforcing the fact that, if we have to sit down for those people to come and teach us, then we are accepting some kind of inferior status, and that is not within what Rastafari teaching is all about. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, so I think that's it for right now. I do give thanks for the words. I do give thanks for the sound. I do give thanks for the power. In terms of, we can talk about more things, but I think that it is for right now. I think, I'll just hold it for right now. Blessed Rastafari.
Radio culture. Trust online.
Radio culture. Radio culture.
Right move.
I couldn't cover everything, but like you mentioned, the interaction of Professor Nkululi with the system in Ghana was very pivotal. And then there was also the Emancipation Day program in 2000 that was held at the Children's Park. And that is what is motivating I to possibly reintroduce that. With the issue of influences on Rastafari, let me once again restate that my reasoning is that where Rastafari is coming from, across the waters in the Caribbean, it assumed a certain shape and form. Coming back to the continent, it's important that our culture, our values and traditions need to be aligned or integrated into what you call it. And I think that's one of the things that influenced this new movement by Empress Marina and some of the brethren and sisters on the African faculty of something like that. So I believe that as we engage more, these are some of the things that will give us insights to do some of the things that Bro Michael was saying, that is important we chronicle the Rastafari philosophy so that there'll be something for the youths to work with going forward. Any more thoughts and points?
Greetings, fellow.
Bless the Lord.
Yes, sir. I apologize for my lateness. I had a little community issue to deal with. But I give thanks for the reasoning. Right? There is a part where you answered that the problem you see with RCG is apathy. Yeah. And I think, first and foremost, let me say we give thanks for your leadership. It's like those of us who believe something positive can happen, you have provided that leadership that makes it possible. Yeah, but like if you look at RCG structure, the president, vice president, the executive committee, as well as the various commissions, it seems there's more we could do if we awaken some of the commissions. And I noticed the difference that energy makes. For instance, when you suggested this education committee, Seven Fireside, Prof. Wiro, and other resource persons have yourself provided some consistent energy. And now it's like the education commission is getting something done, for which I think most of these commissions, if we take a critical look at them, we prioritize them like we have prioritized the education commission. Perhaps we can awaken some of the commissions. So unfortunately, I will not complain about our empresses, but always they seem to be missing. Prof. Wiro applauded the conference. We will talk about it later, but then if you look at it in terms of patronage from even within our executives, our women, and some of our affiliate organizations, you realize this time around, there was a lot of absence from most of our people. And so we need to maybe strengthen the relations as we talk about relationships with maybe some international, some other organizations. we look at strengthening also the relationships we must have with existing mansions, Rastafari organizations, and individuals, so that the momentum moving forward will be sustained. Yes. So in brief, this is what I would like to say. But again, one thing I've noticed is also the Education Commission, our meetings, second Sunday and the last, the second Sunday especially coincides with the RCG monthly meetings, executive meetings. And so it looks like for a very long time, we have not been consistent with that meeting. So perhaps if we agree that the third Sunday, our monthly meetings can move to the third Sunday, the Education Commission meeting can go on, as well as the Executive Committee meetings, because I appreciate it is on this platform that some commissions it's like they account for what they have been doing, and some executive members as well do account for what they have been doing. But moving forward, I appreciate that we need to keep recruiting. Once upon a time, the leadership of RCG was like TTI. You had TTI presence and EWF presence. It looks like currently EWF presence is dwindling, and so we can get some of the mansions, organizations, some of them to volunteer on the executive committee or to serve on some of the commissions. That way we'll be getting some work done, because it looks like we have the numbers. We have so many human resources all around us, but we are not able to get work done under the RCG. Enough work done. You can't discredit the amount of work that is being done on a regular, but there is more that we could have achieved if we have more hands on deck than we do have now. So yes, I give thanks for the opportunity to share this view with. Give thanks a lot, and I'm impressed.
Yes, Raskofi Asante, give thanks for the word. I mentioned that I wanted to talk about a few things regarding the conference later on. I think that's one of the main things. I think the patronage was not encouraging at all, and it made I had to ask myself some questions like, why is that the case, right? Are we saying that we can't afford, for instance, look at even if I take like Greater Accra region alone, the number of brethren and sistren is a whole lot. Are we saying that we can't, like, for instance, afford a trotro ride from where we live to the conference center where the conference was held? Or is it because we are not prioritizing something such as the Rastafari conference, which was, I believe, a very important event in our calendar and also in our evolution? So I think that's one of the things that we're going to have to look at. I don't know if a post-conference meeting has been organized already, but if it hasn't been, these are some of the things that can be discussed. Why are people, for instance, staying away? What can we do to bring them into the fold, as you have suggested rightly, Ras Kofi Asante, and look at strengthening, like you said. First of all, even before we even go out and partner with organizations, maybe that's something we can look at. How do we strengthen our own foundation? How do we bring everybody on board? How do we get everybody to think that they have a part to play in this? So I think it should just go beyond just the mansions, but generally just ones and ones, because there are many people who don't belong to any mansion, and all those people also have to be brought into the fold, particularly with critical events such as the conference, such as other events that Rastafari Council organizes, because a lot of these people let's say, God forbid, some secondary school decides not to admit their son or daughter into the school, they will run to the Rastafari Council to come for a letter or something to go and bring to the secondary school to kind of ease off that kind of pressure. So why are they not coming to something like the conference, right? So that is something that I think is important for us to look into. So give thanks. I think the whole idea of apathy is I totally understand why, that is something that's an angle, but we also need to look at why is there apathy? I mean, as Rastafari, why do we have apathy towards Rastafari things? That's a question that needs to be asked. So what are we enthusiastic about then? Is it soccer or concerts or what, right? If we cannot do our own thing. So I think that when we do a debriefing, or if there's a debriefing on the conference, these are some of the ideas or thoughts that should be looked into. And if there's anything the council can do to, bring about a change in that direction, I think that would be positive. Give thanks.
Through the chair, give thanks, Kojo, for such reasoning. The last time I was on this platform, I think before the conference, I did make mention that once the conference ends, there should be the next planning for the conference, like registered after the post.
Right move.
We should know what went wrong.
Radio culture. GH reggae dance. Radio culture.
Okay. Now, so that most people can invest their time, energy, and resources as to what we can do to get it better, as to how many days we can compress it and make it a successful conference. So I feel that it's good that we're talking about it, but at the same time, there has to be the energy, time devoted to it now, so that by the time we are getting there, we are not struggling to do things on the 11th, 59th hour. That's what I believe, so that we can get it right. I really don't want to do it at the tightest hour of the time, so that we know that this is what we are looking for, and this is our projection, and this is what we can see can be the outcome for the conference, so that we can get to reach the destination that we feel that it's a desirable goal for us as an RCG organization. So give thanks. Could you?
Desai. So any more thoughts, suggestions, input, contributions?
Yeah, just a humble opinion that, a little more emphasis on finding out why people are reluctant to do stuff, like taking that part seriously. Even if what you're saying doesn't make sense, that's a chance to sort it out. Actually engaging with people to express why they're not coming on board, or why they're not doing what is expected or could help us move forward.
121 Radio Culture. This is where we bring the curtain down. The meeting is, to all intents and purposes, wrapping up right now, and we here at Studio 1 are wrapping up this live stream for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you for the next one. I will be back with some reggae music later on in the day. One love.